Assalamu alaikum dear students. This is International Islamic University, Islamabad Schools, Sahiwal Campus. Science, grade 6, lecture number 1, lesson number 12, motion and measurement of distances. Students, bring your science book, open it and write date and day properly. Listen to your teacher attentively and mark all the important points said by the teacher on your book. Students, first we will discuss about the distance. Distance is the separation between any two objects or points. So basically, if we take example of our home and school, home as a point A and the school as a point B, so the length of the space between your home and school is called the distance between the points. In general, the length of the space between any two points or places is known as the distance between them. So it is basically the separation between two walls of a room indicates the distance between the walls. If we take the example of a wall of room as a wall A and the second wall as a wall B, so the length that is covered from wall A to B or from point A to B is known as distance. So while we are discussing about the distance, we have to know about the modes of transport that are used to cover these distances. So here are 5 basic modes of transport. The first one is mode of transport by air. The second one is mode of transport by the water. The third one is mode of transport by the land. Fourth one is mode of transport for outer space. And the fifth one is mode of transport by the animals. For example, animal carts are used to move objects from one place to another place. So here on the page number 115 of the lesson number 12, you have a picture of a glider. This is the first glider that is made by the Wright brothers on 17 December 1903. The brothers successfully flew their machine known as the Wright Flyer 1. So this invention led to the invention of aeroplanes that we are used to travel today. So distance is basically distance between two objects can be very small, large or very large distances. So distance can be the small, large or very small distance. So this type of information about the distance can help us to know about that which type of mode of transport we have to select for travel this distance. For example, the distance between point A, for example, it's a house, and to the point B, for example, market. So distance between point A or point B, or the length that is covered from point A to B, is known as distance. Need to know the distance. So what is the need to know the distance? It is basically the information about the distance that is important to know about the distance between various objects. It also provides us other useful informations that are useful to know about which mode of transport we have to use to cover this distance. So it is important to know the distance between various objects or places. It helps us in determining which mode of transport we should use to go from one place to another place. It also helps in determining the size of the various objects around us. So the knowledge of the distance between various objects or that between two points of an object also help us in determining the size of the object, and it also helps in determining the time taken by these places. So if we know about the distance and we know about that what is the distance, is it very small, is it large, or it is very large or very small, so we can determine the time that is taken by this distance to be covered. So the knowledge of the distance between various places help us in determining the time taken to travel to these places. For example, if the distance between city A and city B is more than the distance between city C and city D, then it will take more time to travel between city A and city B than it will be traveled between city C and city D. So we can know about the time taken by the distances from point A to B, and we can compare the time taken by the distances if we have information about the distance. In our daily life, there are many occasions when we need to know the length of the something or the distance between any 2 points. For example, if we are taking example, to we have to choose clothes of your size from the market. So you have to know about the that how tall you are to choose clothes of your size from the market. And if we take another example, for example, one need to know the height of the bridges from the road to allow the traffic to pass through them. So these are a few examples about the distances and the need to know the distance. Measurement of distance and length. To know the distance between two objects, we have to measure the distance. Measurement is a scientific method to determine the value of the quantity. So basically, measurement is a scientific method by which we determine the value of the quantity, and we know that how we have to measure the distance and length. We have to measure the quantities, for example, length, mass, temperature, and time. For example, we are going to know about the length of a table which is in our house. So suppose you have to carry a table inside a room. How will you determine that the width of the table is smaller than that of the door? One method is to measure the width of the table and that of the door using your handspan. So handspan is in ancient time the people use handspan to measure the distance or measure the length. So this method roughly tells the length of an object in terms of length of the handspan. One can cause many other small things as well to measure the length of the objects. We have three methods to measure the distance or length. To measure quantity, we have following methods. For example, we can use a small stick, we can use a handspan, that is ancient method, and a thread. A thread can also be used to measure the distance and length. Most of the time, these measurements will not come out to be exact multiple of the length of these objects. Thus, these measurements do not provide an accurate or correct measurement of the objects to be measured. So, if we use these kinds of measurements, one may find that the length of the table may be, for example, 10 times of a smaller stick. The second one is 5 times of a handspan, and the third one is 2 times of the length of the thread piece. If we use, like for example, small stick, a handspan, and a thread. So there are three different multiples of different values that we use to measure a quantity. So all these objects which are used to measure the length of the table are much smaller in length than that of the table. So we have to use the multiple of these quantities. So it is said that the measurement will not be the exact multiple of these length of the objects by which we are measuring another object. One can use various other things or objects for measurement of the length distances too. For example, the length of a football field or that of a street can be measured in terms of footsteps, arm's length, or some yardsticks. Thus, different parts of our body can also be used to measure length. For example, we can use our footsteps, handspans, or arm lengths of different people are different. One will obtain different results when different people measure the same length. So, if we discuss that different people are measuring a table with their handspan, so a handspan of different people can be of variable size. So the multiple of length can be variable. So this is not a standard unit to measure a quantity. So this is how people in the earlier time used to know the size of the different things or the distances by heart, by had travels. They had traveled. So this is end of the lesson. Allah Hafiz.